Believe it or not, that is the Pacific Ocean behind me. This is the Oregon coast. If you've been a Pacific Ocean sunset chaser like myself, this fogginess, the cloudiness that we've had here on the Oregon coast the last couple of days, yeah, you could consider that unfortunate. And there have been two pieces of unfortunate news coming out of Oregon Ducks fall camp. We are in the heat of it. We are in the midst of it. We continue to get closer and closer and closer to August 30th and that opener against the Bobcats of Montana State. First set of unfortunate news is the broken leg injury to five-star true freshman Trey McNutt. Let's not sugarcoat it. McNutt was going to get on the field this year. He was going to play in meaningful games. He was going to be an impact player. He was going to be in this two deep in the Oregon secondary, and he was part of a group at safety where it's like you feel really good about these young players. When you get a player like Trey McNutt, you expect him to come onto the field right away. Right? You expect him to be a 3-year player, and you don't expect him to use a redshirt. But here's the deal. Because Trey McNutt is going to have surgery initially, people are like, well, if there's no surgery, maybe it could be 6 to 12 weeks, something like that. You get Trey back at the end of October, maybe early November, something like that, and you can kind of get him into the rotation, and you can kind of get those reps. So when you get towards the end of November and you get into the playoff, he's going to have games under his belt. It doesn't maybe sound like that's going to happen. Okay, I would maybe start to get into your head that you're not going to have Trey McNutt. If you get him back the USC game, if you get him back the Washington game, if you get him back for a conference championship potentially or a college football playoff run, great. But even though I think he was going to be a 2-deep player, even though I believe that he was going to be an impact player, this is a safety room that despite this injury, look, it's a true freshman. Okay, and you have guys chomping at the bit that are competing against each other like hell to get these spots. And I think there is certainly there's some good things happening at safety despite this injury to Trey McNutt. Fall camp intel dropped by a Scoop Duck with Justin Hopkins over there. He actually was saying that Aaron Flowers, maybe not Kingston Lopa, myself and a lot of people were looking at Kingston Lopa to be really slotted into that starting role next to Dylan Thieneman, and he could be, but the intel update was maybe in favor of Aaron Flowers to step into that role and maybe situational stuff for one Mr. Lopa. But I think what Flowers is doing, what that piece of intel really tells us is now you have 2 starting caliber players that are fighting for this thing, that are fighting at the top. And I don't think Trey McNutt was really going to be fighting for a starting role. I think he was going to be fighting for maybe that depth type of role. And then maybe as time went on, he was going to get to that point. But of course, we will never know. The opportunity does not change for anybody. Okay, Flowers and Lopa, as I just talked about in that intel update, those are the guys that are fighting for that other starting safety spot. That was likely going to be the case before Trey McNutt got injured, and now that is going to continue to be the case with no Trey McNutt for a significant amount of time. And then you look at someone like Peyton Woodyard. After watching the spring game, I wasn't overly impressed with Peyton Woodyard, so I kind of slotted him into fighting in that depth type of role to get onto the field more this season. He played in all 14 games. A lot of special teams for Peyton Woodyard, but still impressive for a guy as young as he was last year to get on the field in every single game. I still think he is going to be fighting in that same type of role that he would have been before Trey McNutt got injured. So the opportunity is still out there for everybody at the safety position. I feel really solidified, I think, with the two deep out there. And there's other guys on this team, like Jaden Kennedy is a great example, the transfer who came over from Ole Miss. He played safety for the Rebels, and he played it. He was pretty productive. Okay, so, and the great thing about what Oregon has done in the recruiting trail, specifically in the defensive backfield, is position versatility. Okay, you have guys that are tall, you have guys that are long, you have guys that are fast, and you have guys that can play a lot of positions. You guys have heard me talk about some of in these fall camp position previews, when I talk about defensive backs, I say a lot of these guys are fitting the profile. And if there's one thing that Chris Hampton, Tosh Lapoy, and really you can go to the offensive side of the ball as well, what they do with other positions in terms of versatility. But when we talk about the defensive secondary, I think there are players where you can move them around where, hey, maybe if some of these guys that I mentioned at safety aren't really going to step up in the role that the staff really wants them to, I think you can take other pieces and shift them into other roles. Plain and simple, to recap it, I think Oregon is going to be just fine over at that safety position, but speedy recovery to Mr. McNutt. Unfortunate piece of news number 2. Jurion Dickey indefinitely suspended from this Oregon Ducks football team. Look, we got a body of water here behind us, and the old saying goes, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Okay? I feel like this staff has given Jurion Dickey opportunity after opportunity. You know, he had some injury issues. I think he had some weight issues as well. Like, there's been a lot of issues surrounded Jurion, and I was beating the drum for him. I'm like, okay, with a new wide receivers coach coming in, a new perspective, no Tez Johnson, no Trayshawn Holden, Evan Stewart goes out with an injury, a wide open wide receiver room. Why not Jurion Dickey? Why not a guy that can finally realize his 5-star ceiling? Yes, he has had issues in the past, but this was a time for him to reset, get all of his ducks in a row, and to be able to make an impression during spring, make an impression during fall camp. Dan Lanning said during his press conference, hey, man, 2 simple rules. Be respectful, be on time. And Jurion Dickey was not really living up to those rules. It certainly sounds like it's disappointing, right? When you have a player that's this talented and you have opportunities that are presented in front of him for multiple years and you kind of get the same result. And I think here's the fact of the matter. I think Dan Lanning and the staff, and they're kind of like, we're kind of tired of it. Because we kind of look over here, Decorian Moore's coming in. Oh yeah, he's pretty good. And he's got that drive. You got Cooper Perry, who impressed during spring, and sounds like he's doing more of the same of that, doing good things during fall camp. And then you look at 26, you look at Jalen Lott's coming in, you look at Messiah Hampton's coming in. Oh, and you got Gatlin Bear, a former 5-star, coming off of a 2-year mission. There's a gold rush of talent coming in. It's like, the staff has got to be looking around and saying, yeah, I don't think we're going to waste any more time trying to make, you know, what they say in Mean Girls, trying to make fetch happen. We're not going to spend any more time trying to make Jurion Dickey happen in an Oregon uniform. So I think he's probably played his last game as an Oregon Duck, and that's unfortunate because I was really excited to see maybe what he could do coming up with a Ross Douglas coach room, where you look at what he did at Syracuse and you had a bunch of guys produce, you had a bunch of guys put up their best season in their college football career. So it's unfortunate, but Oregon is going to be just fine at wide receiver. Oregon is just going to be just fine at safety after the injury to Trey McNutt. That's why you recruit as much highly talented players as you do. So when these things happen, you have somebody else that can step up. These 2 pieces of news, they might be a little bit cloudy, they might be a little bit foggy, but that sun is going to come out in the form of August 30th when this season gets going against Montana State. When I get back to the TSOW studio, we'll be breaking things down. I'll be giving my game-by-game predictions. I can't wait. But we still got some vacation to take care of before we get to that point. I'm Ted LaRue. This has been That Show Out West, and this is as far west as we can possibly get. We'll see you down the road.